Hello, my name is Katie Cornell, and I'm the Executive Director of the Asheville Area Arts Council. I'm going to give you a bit of an overview about our Arts Build Community Grant. Now in its sixth year, the Arts Build Community Grant supports innovative arts-based projects that inspire diverse groups of participants to be more active, involved, and civically engaged by creating together. This can take many forms. It could look like a neighborhood art installation, like a mural. It could look like a festival event. It could look like an after-school program. You can get creative, but what it needs to have is the arts has to be focused in the project, and it needs to bring together diverse groups of community members. This year, Buncombe County government has provided a large chunk of the funding for this grant through a new arts and culture block grant that they awarded to the Asheville Area Arts Council. This is part of the funding for this grant, not all, but we are incredibly grateful to Buncombe County for providing this funding. Grants for this fiscal year will range between $1,000 and $2,500. The deadline to apply is October 15th. 2022. So here's a bit of a timeline of how the grant works. It opens September 15th, which means the application is available. And it closes October 15th, which is the application deadline. We'll no longer be accepting applications after that date. We then move into the selection panel process, and we're hoping to have that wrapped up by late November, early December, and announce the awards. We're also hoping to have the funds distributed by early December as well. The other important date to remember is we will require a final report by June 30th, 2023. This will be very simple. We just want to know how the funds were used and what kind of impact the project had. So eligibility: organizations must have been in operation for at least a year to apply and be physically located in Buncombe County. Because this is the community project, we're really hoping that there are multiple project partners, and you'll have an opportunity in the application to share that. Priority is given to projects based in low-income neighborhoods and communities, projects that impact communities in need. The arts must be centered in the project, as we've already said. And this funding cycle is for the FY23 fiscal year 23 time period, which for us is July 1, 2022 and through June 30th, 2023. This means projects must take place within that time period. Because the awards won't be distributed until December, if the project has already occurred, you can apply for reimbursement funding. But the important thing to remember is projects must be completed by June 30th, 2023. Here's a list of some allowable expenses to give you an idea. Professional artist fees and travel, space rental, advertising, marketing and publicity, website and electronic media, art supplies, costumes, sets and props, music, and equipment rental. So for evaluation considerations, these are what our selection panel will be looking at. They'll be looking at the completeness of the application. Do we have all the information we need? Feasibility of completion. How likely is this project to be successfully completed? Accessibility, arts and culture alignment, and impact on underserved communities. We're now going to go through each of these in a little more detail. So first, when the applications are received, they are initially screened by staff for completeness, eligibility, and feasibility. So Asheville Area Arts Council staff will look at it and see if it needs more information or if it's good to go to the selection panel. So if no additional information is required, that's 10 points, which is the highest you can receive in this category. If we have to reach out and request additional information, because we feel like the selection panel is going to need more clarity, that'll be 5 points. And if when we reach out, we don't hear back and cannot get the additional information, that would be 0 points in this category. Eligibility of requests, just going to make sure everything that's being requested is eligible for funding. And we went over those kind of allowable expenses earlier in the presentation. If part of what is being requested is eligible for funding, that's half points. And then if nothing is eligible for funding, that would be a 0 points. And then we'll be looking at the feasibility of completion within the time restrictions. Again, that's has to be done by the June 6, 2023 deadline. If we feel like it can be completed by then, that's full points. If we feel like we're going to have to work with the applicant to get it completed by that time, that'll be partial points. And of course, if we feel like it cannot be completed at all within the time restrictions, that would be 0 points. Applications receiving a 0 on any of these categories will not be moved forward. And if the application receives a total score below 15, it will not progress to the next level. So the selection panel will then score all the applications based on the criteria that we'll go through. They'll do this individually and we'll combine those scores, and then they will meet and go through it as a group. So first, they'll be looking at application completeness. Do they feel like they have a good understanding of what's being proposed on the application, or is it missing key details? Hopefully it's been through the whole process with the Arts Council staff and it's looking good by this point. But that is up to the selection committee. Then we'll be looking at they'll be looking at feasibility. How confident are they in your ability to complete the proposed project in the scope, with the scope that's being proposed, the project proposal that's being proposed, the time restrictions, we've gone over that, and other resources needed to successfully complete the project. Accessibility, how accessible is the proposed project for individuals with disabilities, including physical, visual, hearing, and cognitive impairment. So they'll be looking at that as well. So the question that directly relates to this is, please share your accessibility statement and demonstrate how the location where your program service takes place including online spaces, is or will be accessible for individuals with disabilities. And there's some more information through the National Endowment for the Arts accessibility checklist. We, of course, want to make sure that the project is accessible, but we're working towards this. We understand that this is a big ask for a lot of small organizations. And so we want to help you make this as accessible as possible. But we don't want this to be a limiting factor of getting these projects done either. Accommodations should be easy to find on the information you share about this event. And there should be somebody that people can reach out to ask questions. The next criteria is the arts and cultural alignment. As we've mentioned multiple times, this is a really important part of this grant. How centered are arts and culture in this proposal? And the question that directly relates to this is, how are arts and culture a core aspect of this program? So you'll have a chance to directly address that. And then last criteria is the impact on underserved communities. How does this program impact residents based in income neighborhoods and/or local communities in need. And the application question directly associated with this criteria is, please explain if how your program aligns with one or more of the priority focus areas. So as I said, a panel of a selection panel, and this looks like a group of 3 to 5 volunteers will be selected to review the applications and make final funding recommendations. Panelists review and score the applications on their own using a spreadsheet provided by the Asheville Area Arts Council. Scores are then combined and ranked by the Arts Council staff, and a joint meeting of all panelists is then held to review the combined scores, discuss the applications, and create a list of final funding recommendations. Applicants' scores, combined scores, as well as any additional notes will be given to applicants with their notification letter. So, grant requirements. If you were to receive an award, your organization will enter into a contractual agreement with Asheville Area Arts Council. And you will be expected to keep Asheville Area Arts Council staff informed of your project milestones or any changes as you do your project. And of course, we want to share your success. So please keep us in the loop. We'd be happy to share things on our socials and things like that. Your organization, as I said, will have to complete a final report by June 30th. And this will be, as I said, a simple online form, and you'll be told more about this as part of the contractual agreement. Just keep in mind, a late final report means no funding in the next grant cycle. You will need to demonstrate recognition of the Asheville Area Arts Council and Buncombe County government for their support for this program. And we ask that you send a letter or an email to Buncombe County Commissioners to express your thanks for providing funding for this grant. So to apply, you go to ashevillearts.com/grants and click on the Google Forms link. The application looks like this. If you need help with your application or have specific questions, we ask that you please email us at info@ashevillearts.com. We would prefer you do not call, but please email if you'd like to discuss, and we can set up an appointment. Thank you, and good luck with your application.